So, what if the definitive guide to, human morality, the perfect society, and just the fundamental nature of reality wasn't some neatly organized, bullet-pointed textbook?
Right, like something you'd get in a modern college course.
Exactly. What if instead it was this chaotic 10-book literary labyrinth, one that starts at a casual dinner party, forces you to build a utopian city from absolute scratch, rockets you into the blinding reaches of the cosmos?
Oh, it really does go everywhere.
Yeah, it plunges you into the paranoid psychology of a dictator, and then, it literally drops you right at the gates of the afterlife.
It sounds like a sprawling fantasy novel, to be
Yeah.
honest. But it is actually the foundational text of Western philosophy.
Plato's Republic.
Yeah, and you look at it on the surface, and it seems to be jumping randomly from politics to the human soul to poetry to the afterlife. It just feels disorganized.
Like a stream of consciousness or something.
Right, but that perceived chaos is totally an illusion.
And breaking through that illusion is our mission for today's deep dive. We're looking at a brilliant source text, an essay titled The Architecture of Justice, a 5-part reading of Plato's Republic.
Which is a great title, by the way.
It is. And this essay argues that there is a single, brilliantly designed architectural arc spanning those 10 books. Every seemingly random digression actually prepares the ground for the next revelation.
Yeah, you can't understand the roof of this structure without first examining the foundation.
And that foundation is built on a question that is, frankly, just as urgent today as it was in ancient Athens. We are undertaking this massive journey to trace a singular, coherent argument about the value of human goodness.
Right, because for you listening, this isn't just an ancient history lesson.
No, not at all.
This is the ultimate high-stakes quest to answer a deeply personal question. It's something you have absolutely asked yourself when you're watching the evening news or maybe dealing with a completely toxic boss who somehow keeps getting promoted.
Oh, we've all been there.
Right. The question is, what is justice? And is it actually better to be a good person if you could somehow get away with being a bad one?
That is the core of it. We are stripping away all the external rewards of being good.
Exactly. We are throwing out the good reputation, the praise from your peers, the promotion at work.
So we're isolating goodness in a vacuum and asking if it is intrinsically worth it.
That's the challenge.
Yeah.
But we don't start with some high-minded abstract theory. We actually start with a hostage situation.
Sort of. Yeah. Set the physical scene for us in book 1.
So it's a wonderful piece of dramatic staging. Socrates is walking home to Athens from a religious festival down in the port city of Piraeus.
Just a normal day.
Right. And he is playfully detained, essentially mock arrested by a group of acquaintances who just refuse to let him leave.
They just won't take no for an answer.
Exactly. They drag him to the home of a man named Cephalus.
And Cephalus is interesting because, well, he isn't a philosopher. He's an elderly, very wealthy resident alien.
Yeah, he's basically the ancient Greek equivalent of a comfortable retiree.
Just living his best life.
Pretty much. He is at that stage of life where the wild passions of youth have faded, and he is focused on making peace with the world and the gods.
Right. He's settling his spiritual and financial accounts, making sacrifices, paying off old debts.
And from this very casual chat about aging, Socrates gently pulls at a thread regarding what it means to live a just life.
As Socrates always does.
Always. And this prompts Cephalus to offer our very first definition of justice.
Which is basically traditional morality. Cephalus says justice is just, telling the truth and giving back what you owe.
It's the rule book we all teach our kids.
Yeah, exactly. It's the morality of a decent, conventional person.
And as a rule of thumb, it governs like 99% of our daily functional interactions.
Right. You borrow a tool, you return it, you sign a contract, you honor it.
But rules of thumb inevitably break down when you hit an edge case.
And Socrates brings up a really famous edge case here, the madman with a weapon.
Yes, this is a classic.
So let's unpack this for a second. If my friend, while totally sane and rational, lends me his sword, and then a week later goes completely unhinged, falls into a violent rage, and knocks on my door asking for his sword back.
Giving it back is a terrible idea.
It's awful. If I say, here's your sword, I am following Cephalus's rule. I am returning what is owed.
But you're clearly not acting justly. You're enabling a tragedy.
Exactly. Which exposes the fatal flaw in Cephalus's morality.
Right. It is a collection of inherited habits. It completely lacks an underlying rational principle that tells us why the rule exists.
And more importantly, when the rule must be broken.
Yes. And the funny thing is, Cephalus doesn't even try to defend it.
Oh, he bails immediately.
He does. He just politely excuses himself from the room. He literally leaves to go make a sacrifice, handing the argument over to his son, Polemarchus.
It's the ultimate, I'm too old for this debate, you kids figure it out move.
It really is. So Polemarchus steps up, and he refines the definition.
What does he say?
He says justice is giving to each what is owed, but he frames it as tribal justice. You help your friends, and you harm your enemies.
Okay, that sounds familiar.
Oh, it was a deeply ingrained instinct in the Greek heroic tradition, and frankly, human nature in general. It is the ethics of pure reciprocity.
It sounds a lot like how modern political partisanship operates, or, social media. My team gets the benefit of the doubt and the other team gets destroyed.
It's a very powerful instinct,
Mm.
but Socrates dismantles it by looking at the logical function of virtue.
How so?
Well, a virtue, in the Greek sense, is a form of human excellence. It improves the thing it touches.
Okay, that makes sense.
Socrates argues that if you harm someone, even a bitter enemy, you are damaging their human condition. You're making them worse, more unjust.
Oh, I see. It's like saying the function of a master physician is to secretly make people sick.
Exactly. It completely contradicts the very nature of the role. A virtue can't produce vice.
That's a great point.
Furthermore, there is a profound problem with our ability to know reality, an epistemological problem.
Oh, right, because we don't actually know who our real friends are.
Precisely. Socrates points out that our judgments regarding who is actually a friend and who is an enemy are notoriously, catastrophically flawed.
We get tricked all the time. We think highly of terrible people just because they flatter us.
And we often despise genuinely good people because they tell us uncomfortable truths we just don't want to hear.
Right. So if justice relies on our highly fallible ability to judge human character, then tribal justice is a house built on sand.
You might end up helping bad people and harming good people, all while thinking you're acting justly.
Which makes no sense.
Exactly. So by the end of this polite back and forth, Polemarchus's tribal definition collapses into total self-contradiction.
Okay, so the retiree's rulebook fails, the son's tribalism fails, and this is where the temperature in the room completely changes.
Oh, yes. Enter Thrasymachus.
Our source text points out that he is a sophist, a highly paid, professional teacher of rhetoric.
And he's been sitting there listening to this gentle, meandering Socratic dialogue, and he just can't take it anymore.
He explodes into the conversation like a wild animal. I mean, he is the ultimate cynic.
He really is. Thrasymachus throws away all the polite conventions. He declares that justice is nothing other than the advantage of the stronger.
Wow.
It is a pure, unadulterated theory of power.
He's basically saying justice is just a mask that power wears.
Yes. The ruling class makes the laws to benefit themselves, and they brainwash the weak into calling those laws justice.
It is incredibly dark. But also, let's be honest, it sounds very modern.
It does. And it is a profound philosophical threat. If Thrasymachus is correct, objective moral order just does not exist.
Justice is merely ideological machinery used to control the masses.
Exactly. So Socrates has to counter this cynical view.
Right.
And he does it by analyzing the concept of a craft, or what the Greeks called techne.
Okay, wait. How does a craft disprove the idea of raw power?
Well, Socrates asks us to consider the true aim of any genuine craft. Does it aim at the advantage of the craftsman or the advantage of the object being worked upon?
Let's use an example.
Take a true doctor. Insofar as they are acting strictly in their capacity as a healer, their entire focus is on the health of the patient, not their own financial fee.
Right, the art of medicine serves the sick.
Exactly. The paycheck is a separate thing entirely. The actual craft is patient-focused.
Therefore, Socrates argues, true ruling, the craft of governance, must inherently aim at the good of the ruled. The citizens, not the ruler.
But Thrasymachus laughs in his face. I love this part of the text because he just escalates. He calls Socrates completely naive.
He does. He basically says, do you honestly think shepherds fatten the sheep for the good of the sheep? No, they fatten them for the banquet.
Thrasymachus pushes all his chips to the center of the table. He makes his ultimate claim. Injustice, on a grand scale, is actually better, more profitable, and more admirable than justice.
He says the tyrant who steals an entire city, plunders its wealth, and enslaves its people lives the most enviable life possible.
And meanwhile, the perfectly just person gets taken advantage of at every single turn. They pay their taxes, they don't cheat, and they just fall behind.
So how does Socrates respond to the shepherd analogy? I mean, how do you prove that being the tyrant is actually bad?
Socrates shifts the argument to the concept of function. Every single thing in the universe has a specific function, and a virtue is the quality that allows it to perform that function well.
Wait, like the function of a knife is to cut.
Exactly. Its virtue is sharpness. If it is dull, it is a bad knife.
Okay, so what is the function of the human soul?
The soul's function is deliberating, managing, living, and ruling oneself. Justice, Socrates argues, is the specific virtue of the soul.
So an unjust soul is failing its primary function.
Yes. It is like a diseased body, divided against itself, constantly at war internally, and structurally incapable of experiencing genuine happiness or peace.
Wow. So through this intense verbal sparring, Socrates manages to tie Thrasymachus in knots until the guy just sullenly gives up.
He basically rage quits the debate.
Socrates wins. But, and here's where the text gets incredibly self-aware, Socrates admits a crucial failure.
Yeah, he won the argument, but he turns to the room and basically says, I still don't actually know what justice is.
Right. It was a rhetorical victory, but not a philosophical one. He proved Thrasymachus' logic was flawed, but he didn't replace it with a positive definition.
And that admission is what propels us out of Book 1 and into the real meat of the Republic.
Enter Glaucon and Adimantus.
Yes, these are two younger men in the room. And fun fact from the source text, they were actually Plato's real-life brothers.
Oh, that's wild. So they step in because they are not satisfied. They feel Thrasymachus gave up way too easily.
Right, they want to believe justice is good, but they demand that Socrates prove it against the absolute strongest, most terrifying version of the cynic's argument.
Glaucon demands the complete abstraction of justice.
You want Socrates to strip away all the societal rewards. No reputation, no good public relations, no wealth.
And to set up this ultimate challenge, Glaucon brings up one of the most famous thought experiments in human history, the myth of the Ring of Gauges.
The Ring of Gauges is a magical artifact that grants its wearer perfect invisibility at will.
Like whenever you want it.
Exactly, you just turn the ring in your finger. And Glaucon poses a devastating question. If a person, any person, even someone society considers deeply moral, possessed this ring and could act unjustly with perfect impunity, would they still choose to be just?
If I can use a modern analogy, it's like having perfect, untraceable internet anonymity, but in the physical world, multiplied by 1,000,000.
That's a great way to put it.
Right. If
Yeah.
you could hack bank accounts, read anyone's private messages, walk into a vault and take whatever you wanted, or completely destroy your rivals, and you had a 100% metaphysical guarantee that no one would ever find out.
Would you still follow the rules?
Glaucon is betting that no one would.
He argues that we are only good because we are terrified of the consequences of getting caught. He proposes that justice is merely a socially enforced compromise.
A second best option?
Yeah. Exactly. What we really want is to do whatever we please without consequence. But since we fear being the victim of others doing the exact same thing, we reluctantly agree to a social contract.
We agree to laws.
Right. But then Glaucon raises the stakes even higher. He proposes the ultimate wager to Socrates. This part is so intense.
Oh, yeah. He asks Socrates to compare two specific men.
Yes. The first is the perfectly unjust man, but he's a masterful illusionist. He does horrific, selfish things behind closed doors, but he has constructed the flawless reputation of perfect justice.
He's universally loved.
He is fabulously wealthy, he holds immense political power, society adores him, and he can afford massive, lavish sacrifices to appease the gods.
He basically has the world on a string. And the second man.
The perfectly just man. He never does a single thing wrong in his entire life. But through incredibly bad luck, or perhaps the manipulation of the first man, he acquires the reputation of the deepest, most terrible injustice.
Oh, that's brutal. Society absolutely despises him.
He is stripped of all his wealth, his family abandons him, he is physically tortured, and ultimately he is executed in disgrace.
So Glaucon looks Socrates dead in the eye and delivers the challenge that drives the rest of the book. Prove to me that the second man, the tortured, despised, perfectly good man, is happier than the wealthy, beloved, evil man.
It's an extraordinary demand.
Yeah.
Prove that justice is intrinsically valuable inside the invisible human soul, even if the entire world punishes you for it.
It's almost an impossible challenge. And Socrates looks at this demand, this requirement to find justice purely within the isolated soul, and he realizes there's a massive methodological problem.
He's completely stumped. How do you possibly look that deeply into the invisible human mind to measure his happiness while it's being tortured?
You can't. It's unquantifiable.
So Socrates uses a brilliant metaphor. He says that looking for justice in the individual soul is like trying to read tiny microscopic letters from a great distance.
The print is just too small.
Our vision is too weak. We need a magnifying glass.
Which brings us to the massive pivot in the text. Socrates says, if we can't read the small letters of the soul, let's write the exact same text in massive letters.
We are going to build a hypothetical city from scratch.
We will watch justice and injustice emerge on a macroscopic societal level, figure out what it looks like there, and then shrink that blueprint back down to the individual human mind.
This methodological pivot turns an ethical inquiry into a monumental exercise in political philosophy.
To answer the question, how should I live? Plato decides we must first answer the question, what does a perfect community look like?
So they start building, and the very first settlement they construct is what Socrates calls the city of bare necessities.
Why do we form cities in the first place?
Because I can't grow my own wheat, build my own house, weave my own clothes, and forge my own tools efficiently. I would starve.
Right, so we gather together and specialize.
The foundational economic principle of this city is the strict division of labor. Everyone does what they are naturally suited for.
The farmer only farms. The builder only builds. The cobbler only makes shoes.
It maximizes efficiency and ensures everyone's basic survival needs are met.
But Glaucon, who is a wealthy, aristocratic young guy, objects immediately. He calls this the city of pigs.
He essentially says, where is the art? Where is the comfortable furniture? Where are the spices for the food? You've given us a city where people just eat plain bread on leaves.
He points out that humans are not satisfied with mere survival. We inherently desire luxury.
And Socrates yields to this reality. He says, okay, let us build the luxurious city. But he issues a stark warning.
The moment you introduce luxury perfumes, pastries, gold, ivories, you introduce the unlimited desire for wealth.
And once your city wants more wealth, it needs more resources, it needs more land to pasture the animals required for all those feasts.
And if it needs more land, it inevitably has to take a slice of its neighbor's land.
Which inevitably leads to war.
And because this city operates on the strict division of labor, the cobblers and farmers cannot suddenly pick up spears and fight effectively.
No, you can't have citizen militias. You need professional, specialized soldiers. You need a standing army.
And this introduces the most important class in the entire dialogue, the guardians.
The guardian class is tasked with the defense and eventual ruling of the city, but their existence immediately poses a severe threat.
A huge threat. I mean, a guardian has to be heavily armed and incredibly dangerous to protect the city from outside invaders.
Right.
But if you create a class of professional killers, how do you stop them from just turn around, subjugating the farmers and cobblers and taking the city for themselves?
Socrates notes they need a bizarre psychological mix. They have to be as fierce as watchdogs to their enemies, but as gentle as puppies to their own citizens.
How on earth do you train a human being to be both a killer and a puppy?
You train it through a highly controlled, severe, and lifelong education in two specific areas: gymnastics, for the physical training of the body, and music.
But music here doesn't just mean playing the lyre, right?
Correct. In ancient Greece, music encompassed all arts governed by the muses: poetry, literature, storytelling, and cultural formation.
Right.
And this cultural education must be rigorously censored.
Wait, hold on. Censorship. This is where modern readers start getting really uncomfortable with Plato. Why ban literature?
Because Socrates argues that the stories told to impressionable young minds shape the permanent architecture of their souls.
He looks at the traditional Greek myths, the bedrock of their culture, works by Homer and Hesiod, and he is appalled.
Yeah, these myths feature gods who lie, cheat, shapeshift, rape, and murder each other.
Zeus is constantly deceiving people or turning into an animal to seduce someone.
Exactly. Socrates institutes two strict theological rules for the stories allowed in the city. First, the gods are entirely good and can only be the cause of good, never evil.
And the second rule?
Second, the gods are simple and unchanging. They do not deceive mortals through magic or shapeshifting.
Because if you teach a child that the gods lie and cheat to get what they want, that child will grow up thinking lying and cheating are divine virtues.
Precisely. Bad myths produce bad souls. You cannot raise a steadfast, honest, unshakable guardian on stories of treacherous, chaotic deities.
And the physical training isn't just about getting ripped either. It's about psychological equilibrium.
Right. Socrates says, if you only study poetry, you become soft and overly sensitive. But if you only spend your life in the gym, you become a brutal, unthinking meathead.
They are aiming for perfect balance. But even with the perfect education, you still need something to bind the whole city together. You need the citizens to be fiercely loyal to the structure itself.
And here we hit what is arguably the most controversial idea in the entire book, the noble lie.
Yeah, the noble lie, sometimes called the myth of the metals.
It is a foundational, fabricated myth that the rulers must instill in every single citizen from birth.
They just lie to everyone.
Yes. The myth claims that their childhoods were just a dream, and that all citizens were actually formed together deep inside the earth, making them all literal siblings, children of the same native soil.
Okay, so that part builds patriotism. We all come from the same Mother Earth, but then it gets weirder.
The myth continues. As the god formed them in the earth, he mixed different metals into their souls. He mixed gold into the nature of those capable of ruling. He mixed silver into the auxiliaries, the soldiers.
And bronze and iron.
He mixed bronze and iron into the farmers, craftsmen, and producers.
Okay, I have to push back here. On the surface, this sounds like a terrifying, rigid caste system. You are bronze, know your place, do your manual labor, and don't look the gold people in the eye.
It is a critical reaction to have. But the nuance here is essential. It is explicitly not a hereditary caste system.
Wait, really?
The myth itself dictates that the metals are not tied to bloodline. A bronze child can absolutely be born to gold parents, and a gold child can emerge from iron parents.
So it's based entirely on individual capacity.
Entirely. And the rulers are given an absolute non-negotiable mandate. They must demote the bronze-souled child of a ruler to the farming class, and they must elevate the gold-souled child of a farmer to the ruling class.
It's extreme meritocracy.
Yes, the lie is designed to provide a mythological, religious justification for the strict division of labor. It prevents resentment.
Because if a farmer isn't allowed to rule, it isn't because the elite are keeping him down. It is because the gods fashioned his soul for a different task.
It maintains a perfectly optimized society where natural ability alone determines your social role.
And to make doubly sure that the gold rulers don't become corrupt, Socrates strips them of absolutely everything.
Everything. The rulers have no private property, no private homes, no bank accounts.
They live in communal barracks, they eat in a mess hall, they are given just enough food to survive by the citizens as a modest wage for protecting them.
It's like a bizarre monastery of warrior monks.
Because Socrates understands that wealth and private interest are the corrosive forces that turn noble protectors into savage tyrants.
If they own the land, they will eventually enslave the people who work it.
So we have built the perfect city, we have the producers, the soldiers, and the rulers. Now, the whole point of this exercise was to find justice. Where is it?
Socrates looks at the city and maps out the 4 cardinal virtues. Let's walk through them.
Where is wisdom?
Wisdom resides exclusively in the gold rulers. They are the ones who possess the knowledge of how to guide the whole city in its internal affairs and its relations with other cities.
Second is courage.
Where is that? Courage resides in the silver soldiers. It is the ability to preserve, through all dangers and terrors, the laws and convictions instilled by the rulers about what should be feared and what should not.
Third is moderation.
Moderation isn't confined to a single class. It is the harmonic agreement spreading across all 3 classes, the producers, soldiers, and rulers agreeing that the wise should rule and the others should be ruled. It is consensus.
And finally, the big one, the whole reason we did this. What is justice in the city?
Justice in the city is the principle we established at the very beginning. Every part doing its own proper work and not meddling with the others.
The bronze class doesn't try to dictate military strategy.
The military doesn't try to pass laws.
The rulers don't try to farm. Everyone fulfills their natural, specialized function.
And here is the genius of the macro lens method. We take that massive blueprint of the city and shrink it back down.
We map it directly onto the invisible human mind.
Yes. Socrates argues that the human soul has 3 distinct parts that correspond perfectly to the 3 classes of the city.
Okay, let's go through them.
First, there is reason, which corresponds to the gold rulers. It is the part of the soul that calculates, seeks truth, and understands what is best for the whole person.
Second, there's spirit. And this isn't spirit like a ghost, right?
No, it's our drive for honor, our capacity for righteous anger, our competitive edge. This corresponds to the silver soldiers.
And third,
there is the appetite, the vast, chaotic, multi-headed part of our soul that lusts after food, drink, sex, and the money required to get them. This corresponds to the massive bronze-producing class.
if I can use a modern corporate analogy.
Oh, please do.
Imagine a company. Reason is the CEO looking at the long-term vision and the health of the whole company. Spirit is the security and legal team enforcing the CEO's rules and fiercely defending the company's honor.
And appetite is the massive sales department.
Constantly driven by raw numbers, hunger for bonuses, and immediate gratification.
That is an excellent framework. So, what does a structurally just person look like in this model? It's not just someone who mechanically follows external laws.
Justice is an internal psychological state of profound health.
Yes. A just soul is one where the CEO reason is firmly in charge, making the decisions.
The security team spirit is perfectly allied with reason, providing the willpower to carry out the CEO's plans.
And the vast sales department, the appetites, is kept strictly in check, only satisfying the desires that reason approves of.
It's internal harmony. And injustice, therefore, is an internal corporate civil war.
It's when the greedy sales team overthrows the CEO, or when the angry security team hijacks the company's direction.
We see now that justice isn't a social construct. It is the fundamental health, harmony, and proper functioning of the human psyche.
We have our definition. We have answered the first part of the challenge.
Just when you think the book is going to wrap up, Glaucon taps Socrates on the shoulder and asks the massive looming elephant in the room question.
The practicality question.
Right. Socrates, this hypothetical city sounds great on paper. The logic is sound. But is this perfectly ordered communal society actually possible in the real world?
And answering that practical question forces Socrates to drop what were essentially the most radical, explosive social bombs of the ancient world.
He introduces 3 waves of radical systemic change. Let's ride these waves. Wave number 1, women as guardians.
Right. Socrates states that if a woman has the natural aptitude, the gold in her soul, her biological sex is completely irrelevant to her capacity for wisdom and ruling.
This is a devastatingly logical application of the division of labor.
Socrates argues that the only functional difference between men and women is that women bear children and men beget them. That physiological difference has absolutely no bearing on the nature of the soul.
A female doctor and a male doctor have the exact same soul nature regarding the craft of medicine.
Therefore, women must receive the exact same severe musical, gymnastic, and philosophical education as the men. They must live in the same barracks, train naked in the gymnasium alongside the men, fight in the wars, and rule the city.
For ancient Athens, where respectable women were largely confined to the inner rooms of the house and excluded from public life, this proposition was mind-blowing. It was socially radioactive.
Unthinkable.
But wave 2 is even crazier. I'm warning you now. Wave 2 is the complete abolition of the family.
Yes. For the guardian class, there is no private marriage and no private child rearing.
The rulers orchestrate highly regulated mating festivals. They use rigged lotteries.
So the citizens think the pairings are random, but actually, the rulers are secretly pairing the strongest, most intelligent men with the strongest, most intelligent women.
Wait. Did Plato really just suggest rigged mating lotteries? That is literal eugenics. That is incredibly dystopian.
It is entirely eugenic. The goal is to produce the absolute strongest next generation of guardians to protect the city.
And it gets more extreme. When the babies are born, they are immediately taken away from their mothers and placed into communal rearing pens managed by nurses.
No mother is ever allowed to know which child is biologically hers, and no child ever knows their biological parents.
I have to ask, why? Why go to such horrifying dystopian extremes to destroy the nuclear family?
Because the family is the root of the word mine. My house, my wife, my son, my inheritance. Private attachments inevitably cause divided loyalties.
Socrates understands human nature.
If a ruler is forced to choose between what is objectively good for the city and what benefits their own biological son, they will almost always choose their son.
Nepotism is a universal instinct.
By eliminating biological recognition entirely, Socrates ensures that every older guardian views every young guardian as their own child. Every peer is a brother or sister.
The entire city becomes one single, unbroken, massive family. If one citizen gets hurt, the whole city feels the pain, just like a body feels a stubbed toe.
If someone succeeds, the whole city rejoices. It completely annihilates the concept of private factionalism.
It is a radical solution to the problem of selfishness. But even with female rulers and the abolition of the family, Socrates admits the city still won't work, not without the third, biggest, and most difficult wave.
The ultimate condition for this utopia, the philosopher king.
Socrates delivers the most famous line in political philosophy. He says that cities will never have rest from their evils, nor will the human race, until philosophers become kings, or those who are currently kings genuinely and adequately philosophize.
Political power and supreme wisdom must be fused into the exact same person.
And to understand why this is an absolute necessity, we have to pause and dive into Plato's metaphysics. We have to understand what a philosopher actually is compared to a normal person.
Socrates draws a sharp, impenetrable line between opinion and knowledge.
Let's break that down because it's central to everything. What is opinion?
Opinion deals with the physical, sensible world, the world we can touch, see, and hear. This is the realm of things that are constantly changing, coming into being and decaying.
A physical object might be beautiful today, but as it ages, it becomes ugly.
A law might be just in one circumstance, but unjust in another. The physical world is relative and shifting. You can only ever have opinions about it.
But knowledge is different. Knowledge deals with eternal, unchanging, perfect realities. And Plato calls these realities the forms.
Yes.
Okay, you have to ELI 5 this for me. Explain it like I'm 5. What exactly is a form?
Let's use the divided line. Imagine a line divided into 4 segments representing 4 levels of reality and understanding.
Okay, I'm imagining a vertical line.
At the very bottom, you have imagination. This is like looking at a shadow of a triangle cast on a wall. It's a distorted image.
Moving up one level.
You move to belief. Now you are looking at a physical, wooden triangle drawn by a carpenter. It is more real than the shadow, but it's still imperfect.
The wood might be warped. The angles aren't precisely 180 degrees.
Exactly. It's a physical object in the realm of opinion.
Okay, shadow, then wooden object. What's next?
You cross the line into the realm of knowledge. The third level is thought. Here, you aren't looking at the wooden triangle. You are doing abstract mathematics. You are understanding the theorem of a triangle. A squared plus b squared equals c squared.
And the final, highest level.
Pure intellection. This is the grasp of the form itself, the absolute eternal concept of triangularity. It has no physical matter. It never changes. It is perfect.
Oh, wow. So apply that to morality.
Ordinary people only see beautiful things or just actions which are flawed and temporary. But the philosopher is the one who has trained their mind through years of rigorous dialectic to grasp the form of beauty itself, the form of justice itself.
Therefore, only the philosopher actually possesses the objective, unchanging standards by which to govern a society.
Everyone else, politicians, poets, everyday citizens, is just guessing based on shadows and wooden triangles.
Exactly. And the highest, most supreme of all these forms is the form of the good. Socrates struggles to explain it directly, so he uses an analogy that has echoed through thousands of years of intellectual history.
The sun analogy.
Let's look at the sun.
Think about the mechanics of physical vision. You possess healthy eyes, and there is a physical tree you want to look at. But without a third distinct element, light, provided by the sun, you cannot see the tree. The tree remains in darkness.
Furthermore, the sun doesn't just provide visibility. Its warmth and energy cause the tree to grow and exist.
The sun gives both visibility and life to the physical world. Socrates argues that the form of the good does the exact same thing in the intellectual world.
It provides the light of truth that allows our minds to comprehend the other forms, like justice and beauty.
And more profoundly, the good gives those forms their very existence and essence. The good is the ultimate, unconditioned first principle of all reality. It is the source of all truth.
And this incredibly dense, abstract, metaphysical concept gets turned into what is undoubtedly the most famous visual metaphor in human history, the allegory of the cave.
Yes. Set the scene for us in the cave.
Picture a deep, cavernous, underground chamber. Inside are prisoners who have been chained by their necks and legs since childhood. They cannot move their heads. They can only look straight ahead at a blank stone wall.
Terrifying.
Behind them, higher up in the cave, a large fire is burning. And between the fire and the chained prisoners, there is a raised walkway. People walk along this path carrying statues of animals, plants, and objects, holding them up so they cast flickering shadows on the wall in front of the prisoners.
Because the prisoners have been chained there their entire lives, they have never seen anything else. They believe those flickering, two-dimensional shadows are the entirety of reality.
They give them names, they study their patterns, they give out prizes to whoever can predict the shadows best.
It's a perfect, brutal metaphor for humanity trapped in the realm of opinion, arguing over illusions on Twitter or cable news.
But then the allegory shifts. One prisoner is suddenly freed from his chains. He is forced to stand up and turn around. The light of the fire violently blinds him. It is physically agonizing.
He is told that the statues being carried are more real than the shadows he spent his life studying, but his mind rejects it. He wants to turn back to the comfortable, familiar darkness.
But he isn't allowed to. He is violently dragged up a steep, rocky, treacherous tunnel all the way out of the cave and shoved into the surface world.
And the sunlight up there is blinding, pure agony. He can't look at anything.
But slowly, painfully, his eyes adjust. First, he can only look at shadows on the ground. Then reflections in the water. Then he can look at the real trees and real animals representing the eternal forms.
And finally, in a moment of supreme revelation, he lifts his eyes and looks directly at the sun, the form of the good.
He realizes that the sun is the cause of the seasons, the cause of everything he sees, and indirectly, even the cause of the fire down in the cave. He has reached absolute intellectual nirvana.
This is the agonizing, transformative journey of education.
Yeah.
It's not just pouring information into an empty vessel. It is forcing the entire soul to turn around from the world of becoming to the world of being.
But here is the political twist. Here is where the Republic demands something incredibly difficult of its heroes.
Yeah.
The philosopher who has made this journey, who has seen the sun, who is experiencing absolute, pure, contemplative bliss, isn't allowed to stay up there.
No, they are commanded to return. They must be forced back down the tunnel into the claustrophobic darkness of the cave.
They have to go back to the shadows. They have to stumble around in the dark because their eyes are ruined for the cave. They will sound like absolute lunatics to the prisoners who are still chained up.
The prisoners might even try to kill them,
Mhm.
which is exactly what Athens did to the real historical Socrates.
But they have to take up the brutal, messy, ungrateful task of ruling the city. Why? Why make them go back?
Because the goal of the city is not the outstanding happiness of any one individual class, but the happiness of the whole. And this reveals a profound, paradoxical truth about leadership.
What's that?
True justice in a society requires that supreme power be given exclusively to those who do not actually want it.
Because if someone desperately seeks power for its own sake, they are driven by the lower parts of the soul, by ego, honor, or appetite.
Precisely. The philosopher desires only truth. They view political power as a burden. They accept the task of ruling not out of ambition, but out of a strict sense of duty and justice to the city that raised and educated them.
They rule because the alternative, being ruled by someone worse, is unacceptable.
It's an incredible paradox. The best rulers are the ones who view ruling as a miserable chore that takes them away from what they actually love.
So we've hit the summit. We have the perfect, harmonious city ruled by perfect philosopher kings, gazing at the perfect form of the good.
We made it.
But, as you mentioned earlier, the physical world is the realm of decay. Nothing human, no matter how perfectly designed, lasts forever. Which brings us to the inevitable collapse.
Having established the pinnacle of human and societal organization, Socrates now traces a terrifying, mathematically precise, step-by-step devolution of both the city and the individual soul.
Even the perfectly calculated eugenics program of the Guardians will eventually make a mathematical error. A child with a bronze soul will accidentally end up in the gold ruling class.
And when that base metal mixes with the gold, the supreme unity shatters. We go through 4 distinct stages of decline. Stage 1, democracy, the Spartan model.
In a democracy, the intellect falls from supremacy. The rulers are no longer philosophers who love wisdom. They are overtaken by the spirited part of the soul.
They become lovers of honor, victory, and military glory.
The security team took over the CEO's office.
Exactly. They still maintain a facade of the old ways. They train rigorously. They eat in common mess halls, but a dark shift occurs.
They secretly begin hoarding private wealth behind closed doors, and they view the lower producing classes no longer as partners to be protected, but as hostile subjects to be dominated.
And the corresponding individual soul. The timocratic man is dominated by ambition.
Socrates describes him as perhaps the son of a good philosophic father who avoided politics.
Right, the son watches his father get disrespected and marginalized by society, so the son overcorrects. He abandons reason and becomes fiercely obsessed with status, dominance, and winning.
He's the ultimate military bro.
Yeah, but honor isn't enough forever. Eventually, the secret hoarding of wealth becomes the primary goal. The love of honor rots into the love of money. That's stage 2, oligarchy.
The rulers rewrite the laws to implement a strict wealth qualification. Political power is now restricted entirely to the rich. Society completely fractures.
It splits into 2 cities occupying the same space. The ultra-rich elites and the disenfranchised, deeply resentful, impoverished masses. They live in a state of constant paranoid Cold War.
And the oligarchic soul is fascinating to me. It's ruled by the appetite, but specifically the necessary appetites. It's the soul of a miser.
The oligarch is outwardly respectable, hardworking, and extremely stingy. They forcefully suppress their darker, wilder desires, not because they are wise and not because they love goodness, but purely out of sheer cheapness.
They don't want to spend the money required to fund a wild, luxurious lifestyle. Their entire psyche is organized around accumulating capital.
It's the dark side of hustle culture.
But this suppression creates a psychological and societal pressure cooker. The rich get softer, the poor get poorer, and eventually the disenfranchised poor look at the soft, wealthy oligarchs and realize a simple truth. We outnumber them.
They revolt. They wipe out the rich. And this ushers in stage 3, democracy.
Now, we must be careful here. When modern listeners hear democracy, they think of constitutional representative republics. Plato is describing a pure, radical, direct democracy.
A society that prioritizes absolute unrestrained freedom and absolute equality above all else, tearing down all distinctions.
Socrates' description of democracy is incredibly vivid and honestly almost satirical. He calls it a bazaar of constitutions. Everyone lives exactly as they please, day by day.
Authority is systematically dismantled because the very concept of hierarchy is viewed as inherently oppressive.
Yeah, he says the teachers become terrified of their students and start flattering them for good reviews. The elderly start dressing and acting like teenagers so they don't seem out of touch.
He even says the horses and donkeys catch the spirit of liberty walking down the street with absolute freedom, violently bumping into any human who doesn't get out of their way.
It's hilarious, but it's painting a picture of total structural collapse.
And in the democratic individual soul, we see the exact same radical leveling. The democratic man treats all desires as equally valid.
There is no longer any distinction between good and bad desires or necessary and unnecessary ones. They draw lots for which desire gets to rule the day.
Today, they drink heavily and listen to a flute band. Tomorrow, they drink spring water and go on a strict diet. The next day, they dabble in politics. The day after that, they pretend to be a philosopher. They just drift.
The soul has no CEO anymore. The company is being run by whoever shouts the loudest in the break room.
It appears colorful and free on the surface, but Socrates warns that this extreme, structureless freedom creates a terrifying, unstable vacuum.
A populace absolutely addicted to liberty becomes hypersensitive. They cannot tolerate even the slightest hint of authority or rules.
And this chaotic vacuum paves the way for the final, most horrifying stage of human devolution: tyranny.
How does the champion of freedom become a dictator?
The extreme freedom of democracy naturally generates its exact opposite. In the chaos, a demagogue emerges. He positions himself as the singular protector of the common people against the remnants of the old elite.
He flatters the masses, he promises to cancel debts, he redistributes land.
He sounds great at first.
But it is a trap. To maintain his power, he must constantly fabricate false enemies, both internal traitors and external foreign threats, to keep the populace terrified and convinced that they desperately need a strong man to protect them.
Under the guise of security, he demands a personal, armed bodyguard. And bit by bit, the trap closes. He eliminates his political rivals. He executes anyone brave enough to speak against him. He consolidates military power, and he seizes total, absolute control.
The smiling champion of the people morphs into a ravenous monster.
And the psychology of the tyrant. This is the payoff for the entire book. Because remember, way back in Book 2, Glaucon challenged Socrates by saying the tyrant has the best, happiest life.
He thought the tyrant was the freest man alive because he could do whatever he wanted without consequence.
But the political tyrant is merely a macro projection of the tyrannical soul. The tyrannical soul has been completely hijacked by a single, lawless, monstrous passion.
Socrates often characterizes this as an extreme, insatiable, erotic, or addictive desire.
This master passion completely, violently subordinates reason, it enslaves the spirit, and it ruthlessly purges all other normal, healthy desires.
It's the exact psychology of a severe addict. The drug, whether that's literal substances or power or extreme paranoia, becomes the unquestioned master.
The tyrant will steal, betray his oldest friends, bankrupt his city, and even murder his own parents to feed that singular dominant passion.
And because of this unending internal compulsion, the tyrant is chronically paranoid. He has wronged everyone to feed his hunger, so he knows he can trust absolutely no one.
He is surrounded by sycophants and flatterers, but he has no actual friends. He is trapped in a permanent, agonizing state of terror.
Externally, he commands massive armies and fleets. Internally, he is a slave. He is chained to a master, his own insatiable lust that he cannot ever overthrow.
He is objectively the least free of all human beings.
And boom! Glaucon's wager is settled. The ultimate question is answered. The just philosopher, even if they are falsely accused, impoverished, and physically tortured on the rack, is infinitely happier than the unjust tyrant who lives in a palace of gold with absolute impunity.
Because happiness is not about external rewards. It is the internal health and harmony of the soul. And the tyrant's soul is a living, breathing hell.
Socrates leaves us with a profound, indelible closing image to summarize this entire psychological journey.
He asks us to imagine the soul as a composite mythological creature. On the outside, it is wrapped into human skin, so it looks like a normal person. But peel back the skin, and inside it is made of three distinct beings.
A small human representing reason, a lion representing the spirited part, and a massive, grotesque, many-headed beast with the heads of both gentle and savage animals representing the appetites.
When you act unjustly, when you cheat, steal, or give in to dark desires to get ahead, you're starving the inner human and feeding the many-headed beast.
You are strengthening the monster until it drags the human wherever it wants to go. You are literally selling your highest divine self into slavery to a multi-headed beast.
But when you act justly, you are nourishing the inner human. The human, allied with the lion, tames and cultivates the beast, ensuring the entire creature lives in harmony and peace.
It is a definitive, masterful conclusion to the ethical argument that began all the way back at Cephalus's house.
It's a mic drop.
But here is the crazy part. The Republic doesn't end there. The argument is technically over. We've definitively proven that justice is better than injustice in this mortal life. So why does Plato add a whole extra book? Why does Book 10 even exist?
Because the full scope of a republic cannot be contained merely within the boundaries of mortal life or human politics.
Having established the mechanics of justice in the city and the soul, Book 10 zooms all the way out to reveal the eternal cosmic stakes of everything we've just spent hours discussing.
And it starts with a massive curveball. Socrates goes right back to attacking the poets.
Why is he still so mad at Homer? He already censored them in Book 3. Now he banishes them from the perfect city entirely.
The critique in Book 10 is much deeper. It is no longer just about poets providing bad moral role models for the youth. It is a profound metaphysical critique based directly on the theory of the forms we discussed earlier.
Explain how a poet violates the theory of forms.
Consider the concept of a bed. In the realm of knowledge, there is the eternal, unchanging form of the bed, the abstract, perfect concept of bedness created by the divine. That is the highest reality.
Okay, form of the bed.
One step down, in the physical world, a carpenter uses wood to build a physical bed. That physical bed is a copy of the form. It is one step removed from ultimate reality.
I'm with you. Form of the bed, then the wooden bed.
Then, a painter paints a picture of that wooden bed, or a poet writes a descriptive poem about it. What is the artist doing? They are making a copy of a physical object, which is itself already a copy of the form.
The artist is creating an imitation of an imitation. They are 3 full steps removed from the truth.
So they don't actually know anything about the things they create art about. When Homer writes a gripping epic about military generalship or medicine or justice, he doesn't actually possess the philosophical or practical knowledge of those disciplines.
He just knows how to manipulate words, rhythm, and meter to make it sound authoritative. He knows how to push the audience's emotional buttons.
It's manipulative. Worse than that, it is psychologically destructive. Tragic poetry specifically bypasses the rational part of the soul entirely. It feeds and waters the emotional, weeping, beastly parts of the psyche.
When we sit in a theater and watch a tragedy, we indulge in uncontrollable sorrow, grief, and pity emotions we would be deeply ashamed to display in our own real lives.
It's like binge-watching highly emotional, melodramatic reality TV. It feels cathartic in the moment, but you're actually just feeding the lowest, most irrational parts of your brain.
Poetry waters the weeds of the soul.
Therefore, Socrates declares the imitative poets must be banished from the just city unless they can mount a rational, philosophical defense of their own usefulness. Philosophy, not poetry, must rule the mind.
So the poets are kicked out, and then Socrates pivots again to the ultimate cosmic stake, the immortality of the soul.
And this is a dense argument. He actually attempts to logically prove that the human soul cannot die.
Walk me through this logic, because to a modern ear, it sounds strange.
It relies on a very specific premise about destruction. Plato argues that everything in existence has a specific evil that corrupts and destroys it.
Give me an example.
Rust is the specific evil of iron. If you leave iron out, the rust consumes it until the iron is destroyed. Rot is the specific evil of wood. Disease is the specific evil of the physical human body.
Things are destroyed from the inside out by their own inherent defect.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense. So what is the specific evil of the soul?
We have just spent 9 dense books defining it. Injustice, ignorance, cowardice, and vice. That is the disease of the soul. Now, Socrates asks us to observe the world. Does becoming an unjust, terrible, vicious person physically kill you?
No. Terrible people, tyrants, and criminals often live to be very old, physically healthy men. Being evil doesn't cause you to drop dead.
Exactly. So here's the logical leap. If the soul's own worst, most specific evil injustice cannot destroy its existence, then it is logically impossible for any external force to destroy it either.
A sword can cut the body, but a sword cannot cut a concept. A sword cannot inflict injustice.
If vice cannot kill the soul, nothing can. Therefore, the soul is immortal.
I see. It's a metaphysical argument. And if the soul is immortal, then the choices you make in this brief mortal life, whether you choose to be the just man on the rack or the tyrant in the palace, those choices echo out into eternity.
And this realization leads us to the grand finale of the entire Republic, the myth of
Having proven justice by reason, Plato ends with a mythological vision of the cosmos.
Is a brave soldier who is killed in battle, but 12 days later, as his body lies on the funeral pyre, he mysteriously comes back to life. And he tells the living what he witnessed during his time in the afterlife.
He describes a massive cosmic system of judgment. Souls are judged immediately after death. The unjust, tyrannical souls are sent downward through an opening into the earth to be punished, and the just souls are sent upward through an opening into the heavens to be rewarded.
And these journeys of reward or punishment last for 1,000 years, ensuring that every single earthly deed is repaid tenfold.
But the most crucial, terrifying part of the myth is what happens after those 1,000 years are up.
The souls return from the heavens and the earth, and they gather together in a vast cosmic meadow. Here, they must face the reincarnation lottery.
They have to choose their next life.
The souls are presented with a massive scattering of life patterns on the ground. There are far more lives than there are souls. There are lives of absolute tyrants, lives of famous athletes, lives of animals like lions and eagles, lives of beautiful but impoverished people, lives of quiet philosophers.
And the choice is entirely theirs. The gods don't choose for them. But the text gives us a truly terrifying, incredibly specific detail here. Watches a soul come down from the heavenly opening.
This soul had just spent 1,000 years in bliss because he had lived a good, decent life in a well-ordered city in his previous incarnation.
But when it is his turn to choose, he rushes in blindly. He is immediately seduced by the wealth and power of a great tyrant's life, and he grabs it without looking closely at the details.
Only after he has locked in his choice does he inspect the life, and he realizes with absolute horror that this tyrant's destiny involves eating his own children and suffering unimaginable misery.
He beats his chest and blames the gods, forgetting that he alone made the choice.
This is perhaps the most important warning in the entire Republic. Why did a soul that came straight from heaven make such a catastrophic choice?
Because in his previous life, he was virtuous purely by habit.
Yes, he lived in a good society with good laws, so he followed the rules. He was a product of his environment. But he never did the hard, agonizing, philosophical work of actually understanding why goodness matters. His soul was completely hollow.
When the structural guardrails of his society were removed, and he was faced with the ultimate cosmic test, he had no internal compass. He was instantly seduced by the superficial flashiness of power.
Exactly. The myth warns us that without true philosophical wisdom, without knowing the form of the good, even a socially good person is completely vulnerable to making disastrous evil choices when the ultimate stakes are on the line.
After the souls make their terrifying choices, they are marched through a scorching, barren desert. They drink from the river Lith, the river of forgetfulness. They forget everything about the afterlife, the judgment, and the 1,000-year journey.
And then in the middle of the night, with a crack of thunder, they shoot up like shooting stars into their new bodies, and the cycle of earthly life begins all over again.
And with that, the myth and the book ends. It returns the Republic to its very starting point. The urgent, intensely practical question of how you and I should live our lives today, but it places that question within the largest possible eternal frame.
So let's step back and look at the sheer scale of the architecture we just traced. We started at a casual dinner party, shattering conventional habit-based opinions about morality. We built an entire radical utopian city from scratch just to use it as a massive magnifying glass for the invisible human mind.
We ascended out of the agonizing cave to stare directly at the blinding, eternal form of the good. We plunged into the dark, paranoid, addicted psychology of the tyrant to prove once and for all that evil is its own internal prison. And finally, we stared into the eternal, unforgiving cycle of reincarnation.
It is a single, perfectly sustained meditation. Every single piece, this seemingly chaotic jumps into politics, eugenics, metaphysics, and poetry, serves one central, unshakable argument. Justice is the fundamental health of the soul, and it is achievable only through the rigorous pursuit of wisdom.
Which leaves us with a final provocative thought for you, the listener. The myth of gives us that terrifying warning about the soul who is good, just because it was easy, just because society rewarded it.
So look at your own life and ask yourself, are you practicing justice purely out of social habit? Are you a good person just because you fear getting caught, or because you want a promotion, or because you want people to like you?
Or do you possess the philosophical wisdom, the internal anchor to choose the good, even if you were stripped of your reputation, handed a ring of gauges, or faced with picking your next life in the cosmos?
It is the ultimate test of human character.
Something to mull over. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.